Hello, you find us in the deep inner sanctum. As I mentioned earlier, we're up here in Edinburgh on location. Great host, Neil Slater, friend of the channel. And look at what we have here. Some of his finest wines. A lot of them he keeps off site with Corny and Barrow, Berry Brothers, etc. But some of the stuff that he really wants to have on hand, some of his finest wines are here in this room. And we've got two absolute belters to try this evening. Neil, welcome to Wine with Chris.
Great to be here.
Thank you for welcoming me to your house and to your wine room. Epic wine room, far better than my cellar, absolutely glorious. Tell us, what's the purpose of our tasting here this evening?
Thanks, Chris. So we thought we'd do something quite interesting this evening. We thought we would have a really nice Bordeaux. One with a bit of age, not too much age, so still could have that interesting stage. And we thought, well, do we consider and compare and contrast another Bordeaux, or do we do this differently? And hey, let's contrast a New World instead. So what we've decided is we're going to compare two 2008 wines, both Bordeaux blends. One is a Mouton Rothschild's 2008 from Pauillac, and the other is a Cullen Diane Madeline from the Margaret River, also 2008. And I think this is hugely exciting because, high quality wines, they should be absolutely beautiful. As I said, a bit of age, 14 years, but still relatively young in their journey. And it would just be so interesting to, I think, compare and contrast those wines.
Now, I'm a big fan and a big friend of the Cullen. I've got a few of the vintages myself. I've been drinking it from as far back as 2005. So if I want to be a bit egotistical about it, I would say I know this wine and I should know this wine. But I've obviously never, well, maybe not obviously, but I have never tried the Mouton Rothschild before. It's one of the first growths on the left bank of Bordeaux, of the Gironde River. Put you on the spot, Neil. The top five, the five first growths of Bordeaux are on the left bank.
Thanks. Thank you very much indeed. Latour, Lafite, Mouton Rothschild, Haut-Brion, and which one am I missing? Le Mission Haut-Brion?
Margaux.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you very much.
And the interesting thing is, Latour, Lafite, and Mouton Rothschild are all Pauillac. So that's the part of left bank Bordeaux where really, 3 out of the 5 big guns are. We had a little bit of a read. What book were you reading earlier? Just your little manual? Was it Hugh Johnson? Or?
It was. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And in there, because Neil's lucky enough to have down here to my left, out of shot, we could have had the Lafite tonight, couldn't we? The 2008. But just talk about the different, when we read in the book, the differences between the Lafite and the Mouton Rothschild, which, according to Hugh Johnson, are marked.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. I think firstly, it's a real privilege to have any of these wines, and I think we both recognise that it's not. And I don't have a lot of these wines at all.
You're talking about five bottles here,
but super to open, and I've had these since my kids were born, and so the Lafite is of course meant to be much more very subtle perfume in nature. Where of course I think the Pauillac, the Mouton Rothschild, is meant to be a bit more intensity. And I think what's going to be really interesting tonight is why, as we were talking about it, did we go for something like a Lafite and try it? And we thought, what, if we try with the Cullen, let's try something that we just think might match up quite interestingly with that kind of Bordeaux blend that the Mouton Rothschild and the Cullen. So I think it's more of a perfume thing rather than an intensity. And I my sense is that the Mouton Rothschild would be much more intense, much more punchier, actually, if I may use that not very classical term, compared to probably the Lafite.
And that's what. So am I tasting this blind? That's the purpose?
Absolutely.
Yeah. But going back to something that Neil said a few minutes ago, or might not be a few minutes ago, because I might cut out the last 3 minutes of this video. But you mentioned the Cullen versus the Mouton Rothschild, and the Mouton Rothschild being quite a heavy hitting wine, according to Hugh Johnson. And this is what I'm going to be looking out for, because my experience of Cullen is it's a wine that it's not a shouty wine. It's very muted, it's very understated, and I find that Margaret River, and I'm interested in your opinion, Neil, because you've been there. Margaret River wines, they're very understated and they're quite quiet. They don't shout from the rooftops. They sort of whisper. And so I'm sort of hopeful that it'll be quite an obvious distinction between the wine that's really quite low key versus the one that's really like a firework. Talk to me a little bit bit about your experience of Margaret River wines, cabs, and also Margaret River itself.
Yeah. Yeah, no, thanks. So look, there have been some beautiful producers there. Vas Felix, Woodlands, Cullen, etc. And actually, yeah, the beautiful wines, and I have found some of the Cullens to some extent subtle. It depends on the year, obviously. Some bit stunning fruit, beautiful wines, quite subtle. But then you can have some of the Woodlands I've had have just been, quite big, punchy wines.
Some of the what?
Woodlands, yeah, okay. From the Margaret River.
Not familiar with that.
Great producer. So there's a whole number of producers there. For those that obviously know more about Margaret River than I do, but a beautiful place to look around, great place to visit, great food, great wine, and a fantastic kind of terroir for. For cab grapes, and also some stunning Chardonnay as well that I've had there. I mean, I've got some beautiful wines here on the Chardonnay side from Cullen, the Kevin John, Vas Felix, I think it's the Heytesbury, etc. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to trying these, and I think it's going to be a really interesting match because you still have that as Australia, but it's still slightly cooler compared to some other parts of Australia. Given for those that have visited, you've got some of the smaller hills there. You've got a lot of foliage and tree-lined streets, etc. So I think it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, and again, you make a great point. It's the one part of the world where the white Chardonnays are more expensive than the reds.
Yeah,
a Kevin John, of which I can see 2 bottles just out of shot behind the camera, is more expensive than the Cullen. And they are incredible. So I've met Vanya Cullen in London, in Parliament Square. We did a tasting there. She did a Tudor tasting many years ago, and that's when I first had the Kevin John and thought, oh my goodness, I've been missing out here. I thought the Cullen was the cracker, but it's actually their Chardonnay that's even better. So as I say, I know it reasonably well, but I've never tried Mouton Rothschild at all. So do you want to throw me again for the second time in this video?
Yeah.
I've still got that sort of incredible length from the Iron Brew, which is disappointing because I need a clean palate.
Okay, so what we're doing here is we've got 4 glasses, 2 each. I'm going to give Chris. We'll both have the same one first. Chris doesn't know what they are. I do. They're not Iron Brew, these ones, and I think we'll independent or be Ribena or Vimto, and we'll take a sip and see what they're like. Okay, so I'm going to pass you one first. Okay. So I've got a sniff of those ones. So there we go. This is wine number 1.
The one thing I have done, because I was the one that just pick up the little fluffy bit of the microphone. The one thing I did do was decant at least one of these 2 wines, and the one thing I noticed when we decanted them was very little distinction between the aromas. I certainly don't think I'll be able to pick it up and identify the wine based off the smell. Just looking at this, I mean, these aren't old wines, as you said, Neil, 14 years old. A little bit of a tinge on this one, or am I just imagining that?
Yeah, there is a bit on the edge.
Tiny edge on that of age.
But not a lot at all. Slight red brick.
It smells very... That's interesting. The other thing, Neil, was when we first decanted these, which we did, an hour ago, an hour and a half ago, they were both of them very blackberry, fruit cordial sort of smells. I'm getting much less primary fruit now in the nose an hour later. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I agree. You'd mentioned as well about both of them, but particularly the Mouton, I think, being slightly dusty, and then but then the Cullen being not jammy, you real fruit bomb, but then it's really... That has also really dissipated as well, I think. So I think this is beautiful. I think really this is very clean, getting the real fruit and intensity into this. But I think it's very linear in that it's just this is a beautiful.
I think what I just
this night is really stunning.
Yeah, I just stick my neck out a little bit, and obviously this isn't the final determination, but just based off that smell. I think I'd peg this more as an old world, as a French Bordeaux blend, rather than the Cullen. Mm-hmm. Remains to be seen. Just before I have a swig, I know Neil, you've gone ahead there, so I'd be interested in your thoughts. We haven't managed to figure out, and maybe I'll post it on the on the screen, the actual blend of the Mouton Rothschild, but the Cullen here is 86% Cabernet and 14% Merlot. So it's got two of the classic Bordeaux grapes. We suspect the Mouton Rothschild will probably be adding in some Cab Franc or maybe some Petit Verdot, but we don't know that at the minute. But they should be fairly similar Bordeaux blends. I'm going to have a swig of this, so talk us through your first thoughts on that while I do that.
Oh, well, this is just utterly tremendous. So, like you walk into a forest of pine trees and you get some pines in your mouth, first of all, when you're swirling it around, it goes a bit crazy. And then you've just got this, I can't quite put my finger on it, this intensity on the palate after the length is quite staggering. So absolute pine, let me sound crazy, pine needles, for me, into this subtle fruit. In fact, pine needles, and you're walking in forest, you've got pine needles in your mouth, and then actually suddenly you come across some blueberry pie, and which you've just had with perhaps some vanilla ice cream, and that's what I get in my palate, which sounds absolutely ridiculous, I know, but this is pretty crazy. Yeah.
Gosh.
Right.
I do agree. What's interesting about this is this doesn't have a huge rounded body, I don't think. It's not sort of a heavy wine from a body perspective, but the flavour is massive. I'm with you on the pines. Yeah, pine needle floor. Also that kind of mossy, forest floor, springiness, like a menthol to it. Also, I think, Neil, I don't know if, this shouldn't be at all a giveaway, because there'll be no Shiraz in this, but a lot of pepper and a lot of like spice in there. I'm getting a bit of chili, a bit of heat.
And that weird comment of mine around whatever I said, blueberry pie,
ice cream.
That was more. You do get this wonderful fruit sensation that's really enjoyable. And that's what I meant. It's like, you've had this really lovely, simple dessert where you get the fruit and you get a bit of sweetness on it and it kind of just goes on. And that's what I meant. That was a kind of crazy idea to think about that, but because you go from one extreme to the other. But yeah, you get this slight spiciness. I totally get it. And I so that's one. That's
I think that's not changing my mind. I think I've never tried Mouton Rothschild in my life. I'm going to say at this point that might be the Mouton Rothschild, but we're only halfway through. So that's what I think so far. This is where all of the greats, and obviously I'm nowhere near one of the greats, but this is where all the greats come unstuck, is when they then try the other one and it tastes exactly the same, or they flip their opinion 360 degrees. So let's move on. Is there any little giveaway in the glass that you've done here? So that's a bit. What is the shape of that? I'm not familiar with those glasses. Is that one of your Barolo glasses, or is that a Pinot glass?
That's actually, so that is the that's the standard kind of Zalto Dankart Cab Sauvignon glass.
Right.
Really beautiful. I know actually the only reason for that is they're beautiful glasses, but I've only got two of those. I've got more of these bigger Riesling smelly ones for a cab as well. Yeah. And so I just thought, look, I'll just do one of each to make it a bit more a bit more complex for you to think about, just so I could kind of play with your mind.
And I think you gifted me two of these.
Yeah.
Both of which I've broken. Sadly, they're all gone. I am increasingly well known for breaking wine glasses. These are very big glasses.
Yeah.
Cheers. Lovely big glass. Huge. Heavy
they
glass.
Are. Beautiful.
Harder to break, I'd imagine. Maybe I should get some of those. Right. Oh. Different smell there. Not sure I can't immediately put my finger on what I'm smelling there. You got any ideas?
I think you just, for me, that is all about the fruit. Really beautiful and not jammy. It's not intense. That is subtle fruit.
It's quite. I think you're bang on. I think you're absolutely bang on. I sort of hadn't really.
You're walking in summer or whatever, and you come across those blueberry plants or raspberry plants or whatever, and you're going to pick them yourself. And
you've had your blueberry ice cream moment. I'll have my moment is now gravy. Is the word that came to my mind, by which I think my brain's telling me just viscous, thick, and then you've put your nose on it. It's the fruit, the pureness of the fruit, but that's like a fruit gravy. It's just a thick, heavy, heady fruit flavour. That was a bit microphone wrong place, wrong time. Love these glasses.
Still got that.
Big legs there.
But yeah, very long, very viscous. Just like the other red. I mean, the intensity on the palate, the tannin is there, but it's smoothed off a little bit because it's so aged. It's got 14 years of age, but still coating the mouth beautifully. And again, I think this is a stunning wine. Actually, really enjoy it. Bearing in mind here, obviously we're not having any food. These are wines that I would really enjoy having some wonderful food with. But you look at the color, the viscosity, and that, as we said, that berry kind of freshness about it. This is a lovely wine.
This is the position I knew I would end up in, and that I feel hugely uncomfortable being in, because at this point I've got no idea which one's which. I think, to my mind, the first one was more traditional. It was less fruit forward, more secondary fruits, more what I think of as a Bordeaux, as an old world wine. I agree with everything you just said. This one's an absolute cracker. The thing about them is, they're very distinctive wines. They don't taste similar. They taste very distinct. So they're very easy to pick apart. But obviously, without knowing which one's which, they're kind of impossible to pick apart. So that's as far as I've got so far. I think you're right, Neil. So this second one, much more primary fruit left than the secondary fruit. So again, that's pointing me towards, maybe I'm falling into cliches and stereotypes that the new world will be the more fruity wine. But I need a bit of time to think. So I'll pass it back to you just for any further thoughts while I have a swig.
Thanks. I mean, as you can see, I was having a good sniff of them both then, and actually they're both evolving very much. Again, I love, in the larger Bordeaux glass, I love that kind of crushed raspberry intensity, but not in a crazy jammy way of the fruit. And yet on the other glass, it's evolving to be maybe slightly more
The first one.
earthy, in nature. Also some hints of subtle mushrooms. I don't mean like as in, remember they had that old Dom Perignon, I don't mean like that, but just you can imagine it being slightly more earthy in nature as well. It's definitely evolving, the complexity. I mean, these are just both stunning wines and very drinkable, very wonderful. And actually, I have to say, I'm really looking forward to having some beef with these later on this evening.
Yeah. I think just gone back to that first one, I'm now getting a sort of a cherry almond off the first one that I wasn't getting initially. So that's a new thing. Listen, who cares? I've been wrong again and again on blind tastings on the channel, so there's no shame in it. And we're sharing some anecdotes about a recent article that I shared with a lot of friends of the channel of Jancis Robinson, who's one of the great wine tasters, and all the mistakes she's made around blind wines. So there's no shame in getting a blind tasting wrong. He says, getting his defences in early. I think I'll probably just stick with where I've started, at least for consistency. So on the nose, moving through to the taste and the look, even before we even smelled the wine, the look of it in the glass. I'm banking on, I don't know why, but I'm banking on the French wine being less of a fruit expression. I don't know that it would age quicker, and I don't know why it would age quicker than the Margaret River, and that might be the bit that catches me out, because the wine that I think is more advanced in terms of age is the first wine. It's moved through its primary fruit into some secondary fruits. It's got that slight tinge of age that the second wine doesn't. So I guess I'm confusing myself there, because I would expect the Cullen to age a bit quicker than the Mouton Rothschild. But nonetheless, I think I'll go with the first one we tried as being the Mouton Rothschild, and the second being the Cullen, based on just the expression and the depth of expression of fruit, and really that classic New World tends to be a bit more fruity because of the temperature and the amount of sun and so on than an Old World wine. Put me out of my misery, Neil. Have I got it bang on, or am I 100% wrong?
Well, I would like to exclusively reveal this evening, if I was being funny, that of course...
One of these is bloody Ribena, then I get it.
They're actually both the same wine, and it's a Bulgarian $2.99. It was buy one and get one free. So Chris is right. He's redeemed himself from the Iron Brew test. which one has to have in Scotland. And absolutely
I'll
right.
never fall for Irn-Bru again.
Dornbrin or 96, totally right. I think you're spot on, and I think we both agree. I mean, these are stunning wine. I'm loving these actually. Just nice to drink, nice to chat together about these. But you're right. Mouton Rothschild is the first one, very clear. And actually, when you get into the bouquet, the nose, it's pretty clear. All the stuff you were saying about the fruit. And I think the more fruit driven on the colour, and even though it's very subtle, it's not a jammy, heat infused Aussie red. It's a beautiful wine, but the Mouton just has this. I'm not going to use the word classiness, but it's got this terroir driven vegetation as well as the fruit that just, I think, subtly distinguishes it. And that is going to be, as I get older, that's just going to be so interesting. So really well done. Congratulations, you've passed. I think
I'm now a master of wine.
now we can eat some food.
And now we're going to go and eat some food. Can I finish and put you on the spot for a second, actually, after all your capers here this evening? Which I mean, the price point, neither of these cheap wines, to state the obvious. We don't actually know the value of this Mouton Rothschild. We'd need to check it out on the market. But these Cullens go for sort of 75 quid a bottle ish, and certainly the Mouton will be more expensive than that. Which do you think? I don't know. Better wines or bad question. Which do you prefer? Just you yourself and your palate, and which do you think's better value?
Great question, and I'm going to fudge it, but not fudge it in a bad way. For me, wine is about a number of things. It's about food. It's about moments. It's about friendship. It's about context, and it's also about, for example, I've been to the Margaret River, so it means a lot to me to have Cullen and to try it. This is my only last bottle of 2008, and so to have it here with you this evening. So I'm not. I totally get it. Very different price points. Let's be frank about it. The First Growth is far more expensive, but I bought that a number of years ago, as you know, when it was far cheaper. So look, for me, it's all about, rather than that question, it is, are they wines that you can enjoy, open, and appreciate at the right time, and they are. These are both stunning wines, brilliant producers. Take quality seriously, and I think I wouldn't choose one over the other. Actually, it's all about timing and context.
And thanks, Neil. And good politician's answer there. Nicola Sturgeon will be proud of that, although she's usually a bit more direct than that. I'd probably sit in the fence as well. I think I need to drink more of each of these wines to go away and decide which one I'm most in love with. And the bottom line is that's exactly what we're about to do. Thanks for joining us. Thanks, Neil, so much for opening up your cellar.
Pleasure.
I've waited literally years to get up here because it was meant to happen about a year ago. Andre got away up here and drank all the really good stuff. And I'm here a year later. It's been a huge pleasure to be able to have a poke around in here. As your son was saying last night, Chris arrived, dropped his bags, and disappeared into this room for over an hour, and that's probably near the truth. It's fantastic, and I look forward to spending another hour in here tonight just poking around. But thanks so much.
Pleasure.
And we look forward to seeing you all back on Wine with Chris at some point in the future. If you really want Wine with Chris, start spreading the word on social media, because the videos have been a bit few and far between, but we always said we'd do this one on location. Very glad to have made it up here finally. If you like the video, press the thumbs up sign. If you want to subscribe, hit the bell, and we look forward to seeing you on location or back in the tasting room or down in the cellar. Not this cellar, but another cellar, my cellar, again very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.